Welcome to the show. In this video, we're going to discuss the possibility of nuclear war and some of the myths surrounding that and possible solutions. Our guest for this discussion wishes to remain anonymous. He's ex-military, and for the purposes of the show, we are going to address him as Sean. Welcome to the show, Sean.
It's my pleasure. When I first realized that there are a lot of myths surrounding thermonuclear war, and the public had been fed those with different agendas in mind, and the possibility of nuclear war as an inevitability and a reality without further aggressive political agendas to eliminate them with better weapons or defensive technologies, made me very concerned.
So this whole idea that thermonuclear war is going to blow up the planet or cause nuclear winter, I think you also mentioned myths concerning the fallout, is basically disinformation.
Well, it's disinformation and junk science combined. Some of that was designed for deterrence. But you have to remember, we tested 928 nuclear explosions in the Nevada test site on our soil. Okay? We tracked the fallout. We detonated over 100 nuclear bombs in Nevada that were above ground. We encouraged people to wear energy badges and stand out and watch these explosions. The mushroom cloud parties, all kinds of things. The estimated casualties that we had from all those explosions was around 140 to 150,000 people. That doesn't include the 1.6 trillion gallons of groundwater that has been polluted and under Lake Mead, or that is leaking into the Colorado River. But this science is hypothetical. By changing just a few variables, it's obvious when you see what we've experimented with, the observable science, and not only that, the science concerning particulate matter in the atmosphere does not back up nuclear winter. We haven't had it happen in any of the experiments we did in Nevada. Mount St. Helens erupted. The particulate matter generated just by that volcano alone would probably be, if nothing else, the equivalence of a nuclear attack. You also have to remember that a nuclear attack is strategic. They're not going to start blowing up cities until we don't surrender. If we were attacked, they would attack our military and nuclear silo capability. And as far as fallout is concerned, you're not going to have much of that. We detonated over 100 above ground bombs in Nevada, and we only saw around 140 to 150,000 casualties on our soil. The whole idea that the world is going to become contaminated with radioactive fallout is a myth. The only way you can contaminate the ground is if the trigger mechanism of the thermonuclear device, which has a blast radius on it and is between 1 and 5 kilotons, touches the ground, then you're going to get that. You're going to get the earth, the sand, polluted, and it could blow around, and that's when you get contamination. The dust particle gets into the cow's body, the milk goes out and gets distributed, and there's the chain reaction. But these devices don't necessarily have to be fission bombs. Those are older, and they would have to, the blast would have to touch the Earth. And the maximum effect comes when you detonate these in the atmosphere, and that's above the silos and military sites. You're not going to have the fallout effect. And sadly, the agenda of misguided individuals to stop the production, testing, and advancement of nuclear weapons and defense systems is actually not the high ground, because they are encouraging nuclear war without realizing it. Our enemies, Russia, has advanced their technology. They have what is called heavy nuclear weapons. They can throw 20 tons of warheads with one missile. And when you do the math on what we have in our military and silos, you're talking about a tactical strike on 500 strategic locations. Some of those warheads, some of those missiles have up to 20 warheads. We'll just say they only have 10. Do the math. That's 50. 50 missiles. That's all it would take. And with the advancement in hypersonic delivery, it goes around our current defense systems and radar. This whole situation could literally take place between 10 and 20 minutes. It would be over. That's how serious, that's how close we are to this whole thing. The nuclear chessboard was looked at a long time ago. Reagan had proposed the idea of Star Wars defense. Space missile defense system. And we could do it. 3 to 5 years and around $200 billion, we could have something similar to the Iron Dome system. You can hit a bullet with a bullet. We've proven it. There's also the brilliant Pebble system. You need not look any further than the Iron Dome system. It's doable. But unfortunately, there's something else going on in the political arena.
Are you talking about the communist agenda? Is that, do you think that's playing into this?
At this point, it's undeniable. For the last 70 years, we know that nuclear war is inevitable unless we consolidate power or eliminate it with better weapons or defense systems. And if you look around the world, you're going to see the political systems versus the West. We're the only ones standing in the way of communism. We're the stubborn Americans. And the fear that I have is that they don't have the patience to wait for a generation or 3 to die. They want this now, and a nuclear war combined with bioweapons and a few other types of false flags, and we're gone. We're out of the way. And when you talk about Bible prophecy, you're looking at something being removed right before the tribulation period. It could very well be the democracy that we have grown to love and enjoy. The only thing that gives me comfort is the fact that we're not really a threat anymore. Russia is not worried about the United States. China is not worried about the United States. The big worry that everybody should be worried about is China. They're not concerned with the US. We're a nuisance. The Russian military power has surpassed the West. Unless there's something that we have that we're not aware of, we've fallen out of this race. Anything else is just propaganda and delusion. The only thing that is going to change that is if we buckle down and develop a missile defense system, a space-based missile defense system that makes nuclear war obsolete. That's the only thing that's going to change this.
What are your views concerning the Middle East? What about the 2 billion Muslims that are rising up around the Mediterranean?
It's a ticking time bomb. People have underestimated what's going on over there. They don't believe in homosexuality. They don't have the problems that other types of religious systems have. They don't tolerate that. They have polygamy. They are multiplying at a very, very fast rate. There is no emphasis on birth control. There is no emphasis on abortion. They are consolidating political power exponentially. The only thing that has stopped them is their lack of technological advance. But that's only a matter of time. If they get their hands on that type of capability for intercontinental ballistic thermonuclear weapons, everything changes. There is no negotiating with them. In the Muslim religion, the only way to assure that you enter into heaven is to die in war, in jihad. They have no assurance of salvation, other than to die in battle. They can't be threatened. If you kill them, they get 20 virgins and go to heaven. What are you threatening them with? The push for nuclear power is just around the corner. There's disinformation concerning that too, and the push to get rid of coal power and to move away from fossil fuels is going to push towards nuclear power. They're already enriching more uranium than they're supposed to. If we don't make nuclear weapons obsolete, we'll be dealing with them. It's just a matter of time.
You had mentioned that our military has gotten to the point where we're not even a threat to Russia. We still have a pretty powerful Navy and Air Force, don't we?
Our Navy is very powerful. Our Air Force is absolutely superior. It doesn't come down to that. This is tactical thermonuclear application. And our leaders, not just the ones that are inept that we have now, but any of them, are they willing to sacrifice half the states in the Union in a throw? While China sits over there and pits us against Russia over Ukraine? Don't think they haven't figured that out. I don't sit around and worry about Russia like I do China. China, they could take over the world. They have the capability to do that now. When I said Russia's not worried about the West, I should have said they're worried about China. They can see the nuclear chessboard. There's a reason that our leaders have moved towards negotiations with Russia. And that reason is China. America and Russia have commonalities that are not shared with China. You have Christianity and mainly Catholicism as the major religion of the United States. In Russia, you have the Eastern Orthodox, which is very similar to Catholicism. You don't have the resistance to the gospel of Christ in Russia like you do China. And there has been strongholds over there throughout history. Communist Russia, communist China are two different animals. Completely. The New World Order it's fear-based. It's consolidation of power, acquisition of natural resources, and foreign relations for negotiation. Control of the world through acquisition. You talk about the Middle East, you're dealing with a huge amount of world trade and natural resources. And we are inevitably going to be drawn over there.
That's interesting. Do you think that's what the Bible is referring to when it talks about God putting a hook in the jaw of the nations as far as the end times?
Absolutely. You have the Persian Gulf, the Suez Canal, you got the Black Sea that's heated up right now, you have the Mediterranean, you have all the natural gas, you have the oil of Arabia. It's all right there, not to mention the natural resources that are still untapped in Africa, and China is beginning to try to monopolize those. The infrastructure just isn't there yet. The United States has slacked off. We should have been there a long time ago.
The Muslims have the political power over there, so they're going to be the ones that are going to start that trouble over in the Middle East concerning the Holy Land, and it's going to cause trouble for everybody. Do you think that has to be thermonuclear, or could it just be a war or an invasion?
In my opinion, it could be both. When you get into the prophetic destruction of Damascus, that describes what anybody would think of a type of nuclear detonation. And you have to speculate, because Israel has the power to do that, and if anybody's going to do it, it's going to be them, but why? So it doesn't necessarily have to come down to the Muslims getting the ability for nuclear devices, because technically they can get that, they just don't have the ability and the technology like Israel does concerning the delivery. They could get a suitcase nuke, they could get other things, satellite deployment, drone deployment. There are options. As far as intercontinental capability, no. That war has been going on for thousands of years, and it's not going anywhere. Eventually, there's going to be trouble, and who knows how exactly that's going to be exacerbated, or if it's already begun.
I would agree with that. I think there's really only three options. You have the version of Bible prophecy that involves the Antichrist coming out of Europe and ruling the whole world and causing the whole world to get a mark and worship an image. Then you have the alternate view where you have the Muslim Antichrist, and those things are pretty much in place right now. You have the revived Ottoman Empire, you have an image over in Mecca, and we know that when it comes to the Muslim religion, it's transformed in the past, so that image could change, a lot of things could change, but it's already there. You've got the mosque up on the Temple Mount, you've got all these things going on, but there's still a third option, and if this stuff went out further, you have other possibilities, and you have that technological aspect to this whole thing, to where how far is this going to go? Because we can manipulate genes, right? We can do all these different things. There's been technological advances with extracellular matrix. You can regrow limbs. That's been around for quite a while. You also have, different alterations that could be done to the mitochondria, which could, literally give people maybe 3 or 4 times the lifespan that they have. And you have all this talk about this stuff and transhumanism and, this whole delusion of, achieving more, immortality through technology. So it could happen that way. And, we could be in for something else where it would be really kind of like a sci-fi movie, robots would literally, be running around doing all this stuff. It would be like Star Wars, but probably even more advanced. So I definitely would agree that at that point, you would have to assume that nuclear weapons would become obsolete. So is that what we're going to be looking for?
That's definitely what to look for. But the fact that when we created nuclear weapons and tested them, not just the advent of the thermonuclear explosion with bombers, I'm talking about testing it on populations of people. And we did that, and we found out that a lot of the things that people were worried about were myths. And our enemies found that out too. So the reality of using it for domination and power without the fear of nuclear winter, without worrying about contaminating the world with nuclear fallout, makes this more of a reality. And technology has accelerated so fast that you have all these different realities combined. Using naval, air force, or infantry-based type of military is still needed, but not the way it used to be. Because now we have artificial intelligence. Now we have all kinds of different things that have probably, behind the scenes, made our Air Force obsolete too. Because attack drones have advanced in ways that we probably aren't aware of. And pilots, they're probably obsolete. We have the workforce being threatened by artificial intelligence. We have the military application of infantry with artificial intelligence. Everything has changed. And like I said, the fear that I have is that the people that are trying to consolidate power and move into this realm of communism for the sake of consolidation and negotiation. The reality of the communist element has always been here. Operation Paperclip. Look at the distribution of wealth and power. The people, they don't have power, and I'm not just talking about the last election. I'm talking about something that's been going on for 100 years, minimum.
Yeah, and I've been talking about that. America is a great idea. But I think that it was mostly alive in the hearts of good Americans and patriots. But I don't think our leaders shared our beliefs, and I think that we've been manipulated. I think Operation Paperclip is a good example. MK Ultra, various other things that we really don't have time to go into. I know our time is getting shorter. But I think you're right about that. And I think it comes down to a question of not necessarily whether America is a good idea, it's whether it's even possible with everything that we're looking at. Because, not only do we have people that they're in a race to grab power and money. Okay, it's always been that way. You can look out through history. You also have to deal with the rest of the world. And then behind the scenes, you're dealing with the spiritual dimension. And they're really the ones that are kind of pulling the strings on this stuff. So I guess it comes down to how are we going to transition? Because something is happening in that realm. And a lot of people will talk about how the United States isn't in biblical prophecy. And it's not. We haven't really been around that long. Most of that is centered around the Middle East. So are you saying that what you're worried about is how is that transition going to take place?
Exactly. When you sit back and look at the situation we're in, you can see why people, they become overly concerned about population, or they become concerned about other issues, because it's almost as if they are just waking up to the fact that if we don't get along, if we don't figure out how we're going to deal with our natural resources, how we're going to deal with our religious differences, there is going to be bloodshed and destruction, and our future generations are at risk in their minds. Okay, I believe that God is in control, and I believe this is going in one direction, but at the same time, that's really what you're dealing with. And people they're in a race to consolidate power and wealth. Natural resources are at the top of the list. That's what Agenda 21 is about. Okay? Plain and simple. But there are people who aren't going to play by the same rules. There are different political agendas. And there are different mentalities about conservation of our resources and how we deal with it. And if it's taken out of balance, or if it's taken in a direction that's unrealistic, like getting rid of fossil fuels, right now look what that's doing. And you can see the agenda. How close are we to some type of disaster or escalation militarily, and what's really going on behind the scenes? How realistic is a nuclear attack on the United States? I think it's very realistic, and I think that people have been indoctrinated to believe that mutual annihilation is going to prevent that, but that's not a reality. And people have to be ready for that. It's a winnable war. And until we eliminate the possibility of a nuclear exchange through advancements in missile defense and technology, better weapons, it's an inevitability. Forget about all the things you've learned concerning nuclear winter and fallout. It doesn't matter whether you think this is going to be false flag or whether it's a legitimate attack from a foreign country like Russia or China. However you look at it, the reality is there is an agenda, and it's undeniable now. What we believed about our freedom and our Constitution has been more of an idealistic delusion. I agree with it. I think it's great. I would fight to preserve it. But at the same time, was it really there? Is it realistic? Because when you look behind the curtain, you can see the inconsistencies. You can see who's been in the helm of power the whole time. And is it just some type of Nazi propaganda scheme to get people to behave and believe that they're free and comply? It looks like that's what's been going on. And I don't know what they're going to do. Like I said, whether it's a false flag or whether it's some type of legitimate attack from a foreign power, we're headed somewhere. And it could be both.
Wow, I agree with you 100%. What a show for the 4th of July. And I appreciate you coming for this discussion that we're going to broadcast on YouTube.
My pleasure, anytime.
Well, guys, thanks for watching. Be careful with the fireworks out there. Don't drink and drive. Enjoy your 4th of July, and enjoy your freedom while you have it. Be good to yourselves. Be safe.